There are those who find love in the quiet of a warm summer's eve. Some who are betrothed through families wanting to join as one. Others who stumble upon it by chance. Love isn't bound to one method or another. It's not limited to a place or time. It can be found in the strangest of places and circumstances. In this story, the protagonist comes across love in the most unexpected way. Deep within the heart of a small kingdom, through the winding roads of dirt to stone, past simple homes of wood and brick, and through gleaming gates lived a royal family, namely, a king and queen. For years, they tried over and over, night after night, to bear one single child. A child who could succeed them, carry their legacy, and lead their kingdom forward to great futures. After years of failure, it seemed as if this would never come to pass, until one of many doctors' visits. With joy and excitement, the doctor finally proclaimed the queen was pregnant. Both king and queen cried out in joy. Their kingdom will finally have its first prince or princess. They were quick to announce it, the citizens rejoicing and sending gifts of gold, trinkets, and the top picks of the autumn's harvest. Despite the bountiful offerings and many well wishes, the queen was fraught with worry. With how long it took for them to bear a child, what if he or she was cursed? What if there's a reason she had never conceived before? Had the goddesses finally granted them mercy, or was there a more sinister reason for the supposed blessing? The king tried to put his wife at ease. He brought forth jesters and bards, dancers and travelers, who've seen the world over, but no tale nor song tore the queen from her worries. As he sent the last failed visitor off, said traveler pulled the king aside and whispered, "On my travels, I have seen many wonders. Of them all, one I could call nothing short of a miracle. While passing through some woods, I heard the familiar cries of a mare in labor. I took off in search of her, to assist in any way I could, but by the time I arrived, the baby had been born, and the mare good as dead. That was until I saw her, a witch she had to be, caressing her stomach, and moments later, the once dead mare gasped for air. I asked the local tavern, and only one could confirm she was the Somber witch of Whitetail Woods, a mare known for miracles to those of great misfortune." The king took the traveler's hoof, shook it with fervor, and sent him off with as much wealth as he could carry. Soldier after knight after mercenary was sent into Whitetail Woods in search of this elusive mare. Each passing day was agony. The king paced as he watched his wife's stomach grow, her fears rising with it. 1 month from the supposed birth date, 2 soldiers dragged in a scraggly hag, covered in a tattered cloak, long curved horn peering from under the hood. Her body was of a dull pink, skin wrinkled and saggy. Dull green mane of many shades flowed weakly underneath, and face seen better days. All within the king's court reeled back in disgust at the shriveled thing, but not the king who approached her. "Fair witch of Whitetail Woods, I have summoned you here to bless our child. For years, we've struggled to conceive one single heir, but now that we have, she worries for their safety. All we ask is for you to use your magic and ensure our child's health and success, that he may live and grow to be handsome and pure, for him to find a wife of whom to love and share in all his joys. You will be rewarded with all you desire, enough gold to buy a new cloak, and as many servants as you request to tend to every whim and need." With each offer, the witch cackled, soon slamming her hoof upon the ground, and she bellowed her wicked laugh. She looked the king right in the eyes and sneered. "Your wife is not misfortuned. She's already blessed with a son. There is no need for my services, so I suggest you let me go." The king sneered, a look of discontent clear on his face. if that's how you wish to be. Guards, throw the witch into the dungeons. Give her no food or water." With a salute and clack of their armor, the guards stepped forward, took the sickly mare by her front legs, dragged her through the halls, and slammed her in the cold, dark dungeons. For 3 days, she was left to shrivel, the mare not once crying, barely even moving, simply laid curled in the corner under the protection of her worn cloak. The queen fretted more, near begging her husband to show the mare mercy, but the king stood strong, waiting as patiently as a father could. On the 3rd day, she was brought forward again, thrown at the king's hooves as he sat upon his throne, staring at the husk of a mare. "Have you changed your mind, or do we need to leave you there for another day?" The witch cackled once again, heaving, hawing and coughing, yet still her laugh haunted the halls. "You wish for me to give my magic? Fine, I shall give you what you desire." She stood shakily, approaching the queen as she staggered up the few steps leading to their throne. She placed her hoof over her stomach and whispered, "By the will of the goddesses, by the power of the trees, the flowers, and all we are blessed with, by way of my master and all those before me, I call upon thee, that this child be blessed with beauty and grace, that he be beloved by all who see him, and that he find love fitting of what his parents deserve." Her hoof released from the queen's stomach, a rush flowed through the room, blowing back manes and dresses, the curtains and decor. The witch turned to the king, curtsied, and left without another word. The day they've eagerly waited for has arrived. The queen has gone into labor for what could be described as an eternity. By the end of it all, the child was born healthy as can be, and a prince as the witch predicted. He was named Prince Blueblood, after the long-held blood name. Blueblood was beyond handsome as the witch described, long wavy blonde mane, pure white coat, and light blue eyes fitting for a prince. In childhood, he was adored and beloved by all. His parents showed him off like a prized possession, boasting and touting how he would find the most beautiful and pristine bride. Blueblood always questioned about finding this love, as his parents pushed the idea deep into his mind, that his mission in life was to find this perfect wife. Play was quickly replaced with lessons on being a prince, traveling between nations to build relations with princesses and maidens alike. Despite all he was taught, he couldn't help but feel those relations were nearly as fulfilling as he was promised, yet he continued forward, knowing one day it would. All this work, all these sacrifices, it would amount to the love he was told he desired. Soon enough, he became a full-grown stallion, and dowries were sent from all over. Mare after mare came, lining the streets and hallways. Each mare came and went, all tried to woo him and earn his heart. To his surprise, he didn't feel the jolt he was told would happen, even though many worthy mares came and went. Each promised many things to him: love, passion, children, loyalty. It didn't matter. He never experienced this love nor cared, no matter the time they spent or the things they shared. Many tea parties were had, dances, walks through the garden, carriage rides, musicals, showcases, everything that could spark romance. But still, nothing. Desperately, his parents narrowed the mares down to 10, assuming their son would feel the spark in time, and as always, he listened to the supposed wisdom of his parents. Each day, he would choose one to spend time with, and when the day came to an end, it brought misfortune. There was one day where a mare nearly died while choking on her meal. Another was close to having her head chopped off by a display armor set. Another was unfortunate to step on an underground bee's nest, chased by a swarm and nearly dying from the massive bee stings. No mare stayed after dealing with these countless misfortunes. Not even the persistent ones could put up with this curse. In fear of future mishaps, Blueblood approached his father, We can't go on like this. With each mare I try to form bonds with, each are nearly killed. If we continue, someone will surely die. All unfortunate coincidences. But father, the king slammed his hoof on the ground. I will not stop my search to find you a wife. You will find a mare and carry on our legacy, or you will be exiled. Do I make myself clear? Without another word, Blue Blood nodded and turned away, going to prepare for the next date. As all before it, the date went well. Him and the mare were sitting below a tree, enjoying a simple picnic. Everything went smoothly despite Blue Blood's nagging feelings. The mare was sweet and had a cute laugh, yet there was no spark. Once they had finished their meals, the mare ran to the swing attached to a high-up branch, sitting herself upon it. "Come push me, Prince." Blue Blood looked nervously to the mare. "I don't think this is wise. What if the branch were to break, or the seat fall from under you?" "Don't be silly. Come push me. I want to soar high in the sky." Blue Blood sighed and walked behind the mare. He pushed her over and over. Higher she went, up to the skies that swung back and forth. "Higher!" she cried with joy. Harder he pushed. His ears then perked. The sound of splintering caught hold as he stared up in horror. It was not the branch cracking nor the seat. It was the rope. "Stop!" Blue Blood screamed as he tried to grab the mare in his magic, but despite his efforts, the mare slapped him, breaking his concentration. "You worry too much, Prince," she said, tossing herself back and pumping as hard as she could. With each cycle, the rope splintered more and more until it finally snapped right as she was moving forward. Her body was flung far and out as she let out a terrified squeal, landing with a crash in a thick rose bush. When freed, the mare took off for the exit, crying all the way. Outraged by yet another mare running out of the castle, the king summoned his soldiers, his knights, any who took heed, to find the Somber Witch and bring her back to undo her blessing. Each went off in search for their prize, and each returned, empty-hooved and shamed. Seeing no other option, the king took one of the few remaining mares and forced her to be Blue Blood's bride. A wedding was scheduled despite protests from the mare's father, the queen, Blue Blood, but he refused to listen. The day came, all searched and cleaned of anything that could kill. Once the mare took the altar, she passed of a dreadful heart attack. Every parent, every guardian refused to let their mare go near Blue Blood, in fear for their lives and health. The king and queen were devastated, unable to look at their son, and their son unable to look upon any mare. For many days he paced about, locked in his room, looking and searching for any answers he could find. There was nothing more he could do except find this witch, a witch far and gone. Still, anything was better than living this miserable life. Blue Blood threw on his cloak, packed his bag, and took off for Whitetail Woods. Several days of travel, several days where he grew weary. Years of being taken by carriage and groomed by servants had shown itself the further and deeper he went into the woods. His once luxurious cloak was torn to pieces, his supplies wore thin, and his hooves and coat were muddied and stuck with all kinds of bramble. The moment he became too tired to carry on, a house appeared before him. It was in shambles, held together by twigs and mud, yet smoke bellowed from the stack clumsily designed atop the straw roof. Hopeful, he ran up to the door, knocked, and the one who answered was the most beautiful unicorn mare he had ever seen. Her pink coat was pristine and pure, as if newly born. Mint green mane of varying shades flowed behind her with life, and her eyes shimmered. Blue Blood stumbled back, shocked by his discovery, yet the mare laughed. "I have been waiting for you, Prince." She stepped aside and welcomed him into her humble home. Blue Blood walked inside and studied the simple hut, the flat wooden table which appeared to be a fat stump, the hoof-carved furniture draped with scraps of cloth, the cauldron over the fireplace, shelves of strange jars and ingredients. He couldn't help but think this could be it. Did he dare ask? Dare question? "Yes, it is I, the somber witch of Whitetail Woods," she finally replied. He looked back to her in shock. "How did you—" "I know all ponies' woes." She motioned for him to sit by the fire. Gratefully, he set his bag and cloak aside as he sat himself by the warm flames. The witch took a small rag and bowl, dipping them into the cauldron, filling them with water, and bringing them to his hooves. With care, she washed away all the dirt, the sticky seeds and leaves buried into his fur. "You were the one to curse me?" "I did no such thing." She wringed out the muddy cloth and washed it clean, before turning back to his hooves. "I merely gave what your parents desired. It was their greed that led it to become a curse. They wanted you to have the world and steal a blessing unneeded. It was an unfortunate happenstance you were caught in the crossfire. For this, I am sorry." Blueblood's shoulders sagged as he listened to her words. His parents' unyielding desire to give him a wife, this happiness he supposedly wanted, it would never go away. If it's true they're responsible, could it also be true that the cure can only be found if they cease their search? If he did? This may be too much to ask, but I would like a chance to find love. It doesn't matter if they're ugly or beautiful, wicked or kind. I only wish to find someone who I may love. I wish to find that spark. She gave a soft laugh. "And what would you do to find this love?" "I will pay you with all I have." He took his bag and pulled out a small sack of gold, jingling it about. "It's not much, but it's as much as I could save." The witch bowed her head and pushed the bag away. "Payment is something I cannot accept." "Then what should I do? I will give anything, do anything." She simply smiled and placed her hoof over Blueblood's eyes. "By the will of the goddesses, by the power of the trees, the flowers, and all we are blessed with, by way of my master and all those before me, I call upon thee. Through hardship and strife, through patience and determination, let him see not with his eyes, but with his heart." There was a rush, Blueblood's head overtaken by dizziness as the world went dark. When he awoke, Blueblood found himself in darkness. No, not darkness. He could still feel solid ground beneath him, hooves running along the bumpy dirt surface underneath, grass, leaves, a root. He was still in the forest, all alone. There was no more hut, no more witch, only the wind, the trees, the animals. All he could only hear, smell, touch. Slowly he stood, feeling all about as he stumbled. Occasionally, the prince would cry for help over and over until his throat became sore. Hopelessness washed over him, collapsing back onto the ground as he cried and cried. His parents were right. That witch is truly one of curses and mischief. "Are you lost?" a voice called to him. He looked up, trying to find the source of the sound. "Yes, very. Who are you?" "My name is Thorax. I am the king of the woodland changelings." Blueblood could hear the beating of wings buzzing like an insect's as a light dust of air hit him, followed by the sound of hooves touching the ground. "I'm Prince Blueblood of Eldervale." He reached about desperately. Thorax reached out in turn and held Blueblood to his hooves. "You poor thing! Who would leave a blind stallion to fend for himself?" "There was a witch. She was the one to blind me." "That's awful! Here, let me take you to my kingdom. We can help you." Thorax took Blueblood's hoof and led him through the tricky landscape and into a hive of buzzing wings and tearful voices. Smells of sweetness and nectar hit him as they dipped through halls. Hooves clacked on a woody substance, and friendly hellos were thrown his way, sometimes an ooh or an ah. Such hospitality and noise was unlike his home, nor were the rungs and bumps of the natural wooden surfaces around him, or what seemed to be some kind of garland or soft foliage his body brushed up against, decorating the walls. In a way, it was unnerving, the magic that infected his vision not helping. It wasn't long before his guide brought him into a room, the clops of their hooves dampened as they walked in. Thorax stepped forward, explaining the situation, to who Blueblood guessed was another changeling standing before them. Whomever Thorax spoke to reached out and grabbed Blueblood's face, twisting it about. Sadly, the creature spoke. "There is no cure for such an ailment. Only magic could reverse such a spell, and not the kind we could manage." The sound of riled wings filled his ears before Thorax spoke again. "If that's the case, I demand this witch be hunted, found, and forced to fix this." Blueblood waved his hooves about, taking careful steps forward to where the sound once came from. "Please, you don't have to do this for me. I will learn to live with this curse, see without my eyes." 2 hard hooves took his, pulling him close to an equally tough body. "My friend, we can't allow you to live this way, not when there's a chance it can be fixed." "Aren't I a stranger? Some stallion you found by chance." "You may be, but that's no reason to leave you to suffer." A sudden warm rush overtook Blueblood. Sure, he had those who cared for him, yet a tinge of the times of seeing mares and making those relations, the hollowness resurfaced in his mind. The way his parents pushed their ideas, ignored his concerns, all these thoughts left him to falter momentarily. For certain, he could say, this was more than he deserved. "Then I will ensure you are rewarded, witch or not." "Please don't. We only want to help." Thorax tightened his hooves on Blueblood's hooves. "Wouldn't you help someone for the sake of helping? Unless you come from some cruel land." Blueblood shook his head. His expression relaxed as he faced the ground. "No, Thank you, King Thorax."
"Thorax is perfectly fine."
He let out a laugh as he spoke.
"How about we help you settle? You're going to be here a while."
Thorax took him away, leading him through the halls. Patiently, he helped Blueblood feel the walls, the floor, any significant signs as he took him to a guest room. As promised, the next day, fleets of changelings flew out of the hive. They searched and scoured the woods and beyond for this mysterious witch. Occasionally, 1 or so mares would be brought, none being the witch in question. Each pass being yet another day of acceptance, as Blueblood sunk into his unfortunate fate. Still, each day traversing the hive became easier. The grooves that lined its construction became familiar. Points which marked rooms, turns, hallways, transformed into its own language. With Thorax there to help and giving him a stick to make navigation easier, the days once filled with resentment and depressive thoughts became time to look forward to in this mysterious castle. Activities he never thought could be enjoyed in darkness became the delight of each day. Thorax would drag him about, finding ways he could join weaving sessions to make those soft, almost feathery down-like drapes covering doorways and decorating homes. He took him to performances, his words whispered into his ear, sending vivid images of characters, settings, events. Blueblood's favorite was the walks through the woods where his senses would flare with life. The leaves that crunched beneath his hooves, the smell of bark and flora, the taste of sweet berries. He swore he could feel the glow emanating from the unique flowers that lined the special vines hanging from above. Despite the joy it brought, he couldn't help but feel greedy. All this wonder, all this effort Thorax brought him, yet all he could do was follow. What could he do to match this, and by himself no less? His kingdom may be grand, but did it have flying leaves he often heard whizzing about? Did it have anything as magnificent as the tree they resided in? Or whimsical as the creatures he could touch with their odd appendages and otherworldly description? Still, he could not leave to find his home nor see anything he could bring. It troubled him day in and out as he attempted to keep the guise of happiness for his dear friend, as he knew all this wonder could not quell the pain Thorax experienced in his own failure. Blueblood could hear it in his gentle sighs when Thorax thought he couldn't hear, the unbearable tension in his shoulders when Blueblood placed a hoof on them, or the way his walk became heavier with each mare brought and released. He knew he had to do something. Over the course of the next week, Blueblood found who he could in private, going over ideas and how to execute them. Meeting after meeting Blueblood had, as the changelings followed and executed the ideas all in his name. Blueblood did all he could to help, making decorations as he had been shown, deciding on this and that until the day came. It was a warm summer's night, described to him as clear-skied, bright under the light of a full moon and shining stars. Carefully, Blueblood led Thorax through the halls, king blind as him, as he ran his hooves about and occasionally tapped the path before him with his stick. Each groove signaled to the next until the soft dirt squashed beneath his hooves. Slowly and steadily, the two made their way through the bramble and greenery. Blueblood knew each bump, twig, and root on this path.
What surprise do you have for me?
Thorax said with giddy, yet Blueblood stayed silent. Anticipation grew once he stopped, Thorax nearly shaking with excitement. After adjusting where Thorax stood, the blindfold softly dropped. Revealed to him was a stunning sight. Thorax looked down and saw they stood atop a hill. Thorax looked down at the breathtaking sight and saw they stood atop a hill overlooking the lush forest. Looking up, he saw the brilliant sky, and below his hooves, a blanket and basket. Calmly, Blueblood lay upon it and took out plates and sandwiches, simple servings of small bite-sized foods to accompany it as Thorax rested beside him. Together, they dined on their meals, taking in the fresh air, the warmth that wrapped around them, and the beauty and the comfort of true friendship. They chatted about this and that, for in that moment their troubles vanished. It was only them, the picnic and the open sky. By the end of it all, something strange hit Blueblood's hooves, drops of water. He looked up to the sky and determined there was no sudden rain, as the air lacked the dampness that came with it. Was the king drooling? No, it's not thick like saliva. Soon his ears caught sniffling. Thorax, why are you crying? Did I do something wrong? Blueblood asked in near horror. A hard hoof reached for his and squeezed it tightly.
No, my friend. I'm happy to have you here by me.
His hoof lifted and returned slightly damp.
I've kept it to myself, but I haven't felt the best these past months. Tonight, you gave me relief from my fears and worries, and I thank you.
Blueblood smiled, facing his head the best he could to Thorax. For the first time he could recall, a burst of warmth exploded within him, as if this truly was the love described to him for all these years. He leaned closer, now touching him as they laid side by side on this warm night. Without thinking, Blueblood ran his head alongside Thorax's smooth neck, making its way to the head, and, before they knew it, shared a gentle kiss. This was it, Blueblood thought to himself. This was the love he had sought for. The moment they pulled away, a strange sensation washed over him. It seemed so familiar, yet he couldn't describe it. Suddenly, the fog that once covered his vision fell away. Sight quickly returned, and he saw him for the first time. Blueblood noted Thorax's colorful body, a light green with an orange fade on his chest, the smooth light blue gems on his neck, his bug-like torso and eyes, and these orange, horn-like forms on his head. The way he appeared was more regal than Blueblood imagined, the image of what one would describe a changeling king to be. His awe was quickly replaced as he noticed the look of shock and fluster on Thorax's face. Nervousness rushed over him, who was recoiling ever so slightly. I didn't offend you, did I? Thorax's eyes widened as he gave a shake of his head.
Oh, no, I wasn't, but it was nice,
he finally blurted out. Blueblood smiled. Smile turned to laughter, and laughter turned to content sighs. Finally, Blueblood straightened up and looked Thorax in his eyes. It seems we didn't need the witch after all.
What do you...
It hit him as he stared deeply into Blueblood's eyes.
You're looking right at me!
He danced about as he watched Blueblood's head following with ease.
You're cured!
He lunged at him, holding his prince tightly as the two cried out with joy. For moments they stayed like this, taking in all the feelings of relief and victory, all until Thorax spoke again.
You have to leave, don't you?
Why would I? Am I not home? Upon hearing this, Thorax smiled, nuzzling Blueblood lovingly. With the night's end, Blueblood was no longer afraid as he once was with the mares. For some reason, he had the sense of lightness he didn't have before, as if this curse had faded along with the shadows that obscured his vision. All this time in searching for a wife, he never thought what he truly desired was a caring, loving husband.